What's up guys, Galaxy King here with my Mayakashi zombie deck profile. This deck has a very strong anti-meta feel. It's definitely really powerful and it has access to a ton of really good floodgates. The consistency is great, the recovery is great, it can set up a really good board going first, and is overall probably next to vampires, it's probably my favourite zombie deck to play, and I really do believe that it has a ton of anti-meta potential with all the cards that it has access to. So let's get on with the deck profile. Starting off with the Mayakashi monsters, I have triple Hyjun the winged Mayakashi, 2 Darky, the graceful Mayakashi, and triple Yukimasun, the ice Mayakashi. I want to start with Darky because this card is pretty much the most important card in the main deck, or in terms of monsters, it's the most important monster in the deck. Because of its effect to keep bringing itself back from the graveyard every single time you summon a Mayakashi monster from the extra deck. The way you go about this is you summon Hyjun, and then Hyjun will summon Darky from the deck, and then you synchro into your level 3, and then Darky's effect will trigger in the graveyard in order for you to special summon it from the graveyard. And that's not a once per turn, by the way. So you can keep using it as many times as you need, and this card can be searched with really relative ease with cards like Mayakashi Return, Hyjun, and even Shuinui Solitaire. So just the fact that it can keep bringing itself back as many times as you need, that really Darky is the card that makes the whole deck work and achieve what it wants to do, which is synchro climb and then eventually link climb. So Darky at 2 is absolutely mandatory. You could play 3 if you really wanted to, but at the moment I feel like 2 is just fine. You definitely don't want to play 1 because if that gets crowed or shifted or dimensional fissured or anything, you've had it. And then triple Hyjun, basically your starter for the deck. On summon, it can summon any Mayakashi monster from your deck. And it's also searchable with Mayakashi Return, which is really good, and also 1-for-1. Typically you'll go for Darky with Hyjun's effect, but there are times where you will use it to summon Yukimasun, depending on the situation and, well, really what the situation calls for. And triple Yukimasun next to Darky is probably one of the better Mayakashi monsters. If it's in your hand or graveyard and you control a Mayakashi monster other than itself, you can special summon it, and then you can send any zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. So you can send cards like Banshee to set up Zombie World, Glock Bloom to get Jack of Bolan or Doomkin Belladrock, Mizuki, Gozuki, or Belladrock itself, or really anything that the situation calls for, and it doesn't banish itself when it leaves the field, like most cards will say. So it's really good. You can use it multiple times, which adds to this deck sort of recovery if it's in your graveyard, if you use it from your hand on the previous turn. Next turn, if you have a Mayakashi on the field, you can then special summon it, send a zombie like Glow Plume to then get Belladrock, and then go from there. One thing you do have to take note of when you are playing Mayakashi is that the deck is very restrictive. It's probably one of the most restrictive decks that I know personally. For example, whenever you activate, let's say if I summon Hyjun and I use this effect to summon Darky, for the rest of the game I am locked into Mayakashi monsters. So on Hyjun and Yukimasun they say while this card's on the field you cannot summon monsters from the extra deck except Mayakashi monsters. Darky just says if you use this effect of Darky, then you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck whatsoever for the rest of the turn. Like if you summon anything from the extra deck that isn't a Mayakashi monster, you won't be able to use Darky's effect, and then if you use Darky's effect before you just really at all, then you're locked into Mayakashi monsters. So bear that in mind, that this deck is incredibly restrictive and is also very linear as well. Now what I mean by linear is the deck has very few routes that you can actually play it. So for example, any number of cards will still get you to the exact same end board, but there really aren't a lot of other cards that do that. So for example, Hyjun Really, what I mean by linear is that really aren't that many different routes or different end boards that you can make with this deck, because Hygiene is just a 1-card Link 4. So that's what I mean by linear. It's a very repetitive and it's a very straightforward deck that knows what it wants to do, and it only goes about that in a very small capacity. Anyway, that's it for the Mayakashi monsters. For the other zombie monsters, I am playing 2 Shunui Solitaire and 1 Uni-Zombie. Uni-Zombie, I'll be honest, I don't use all that much, but on the occasions that its effect does come up, or when I have to use it, it doesn't do all that much either. But I play it at 1 because if there's nothing else that you can do, like Mayakashi wise with the Mayakashi side of the deck, then Uni-Zombie becomes your backup. It's basically here as a safety net, is what I'm trying to say. Its effect is very simple as well, it's a double Foolish Burial for your zombie monsters, and you can make it or another monster gain a level. So really I don't use its effect all that much, but it's still here regardless. I don't think you need to consider playing more than 1. 1 honestly just does the job good enough, and I don't think 2 or even 3 is really needed. And then 2 Shunui Solitaire. Again, in any zombie deck you would use this to summon Uni-Zombie, but in this deck you can also use it to summon Darky from the deck, because Darky is a zombie tuner with 0 defense, and that fits the criteria for Shunui Solitaire. By attributing it, you can special summon any zombie from your deck that's a tuner and has 0 defense. So you can either go Uni-Zombie or Darky. But typically you'll be going with Darky if you have something like Yukimasoon in your hand, so then you can special summon Yukimasoon, send a zombie, and then Synchro Climb and eventually Link Climb. But there are occasions, as I said, where you do go with Uni-Zombie. And for the rest of the zombie monsters, I have 2 Mizuki and 1 Gozuki. Mizuki, just pretty basic, you mash it from the graveyard, target a zombie in your graveyard and special summon it. And this Mizuki can be used, it can be recycled very easily in this deck with the new Mayakashi trap card. By banishing it from the graveyard, you can target one of your banished zombie monsters, one of your banished zombie monsters, and return it to the graveyard. So you can use the same Mizuki twice in the same turn, and also it can be sent with Yukimasoon and Foolish Burial and Uni-Zombie, so getting access to Mizuki into your graveyard is very, very easy. And then 1 Gozuki, again just like Uni-Zombie, it's here as a safety net. Its effect to special summon from the hand comes up more often than the sending to the graveyard effect on summon. When Gozuki is sent to the graveyard, you can banish a zombie monster other than itself from the graveyard and then special summon a zombie from your hand. So that effect comes up more often than once per turn you can send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard. That effect comes up not a lot, I'll be honest, because I don't summon it that often. So it's more here for its graveyard effect and for the whole safety net aspect of the card. Because there are times where in testing I realised I needed at least 1 Gozuki, because there are times where I have something in my hand that I can't summon, or I need to get something into the graveyard and I don't have any other way of going about that. And Gozuki just helps out that a lot. And then for the one-off zombies, I have 1 Doom King Baladrock, 1 Glow Up Bloom, 1 Necro Banshee, and 1 Jacko Bolan. Necro Banshee, just pretty basic, you banish it from the field or graveyard, then activate Zombie World from your deck. And then 1 Glow Up Bloom, again really simple, it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it, and if Zombie World is not on the field, you can add Jacko Bolan, and then you can special summon Jacko Bonan by discarding any zombie monster, so something like Mizuki, Gozuki, maybe even Banshee, or you can Masoon, special summon it, and then during the opponent's turn you can banish it to special summon one of your Mayakashi Synchro monsters from the graveyard. And the reason we want to do that is because cards in Mayakashi Synchro monsters like Tengu or Yoko can either destroy a spell trap card on the field or destroy a monster on the field. And that will also trigger your Mayakashi Link 4's effect, because a monster is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target one other monster on the field, its attack and defense becomes 0 permanently, and it has its effects negated permanently, and that is a twice per turn effect. But if Zombie World is on the field, you can just go straight for Doom King Beledrock and get 2 interruptions from it. And then for hand traps, this is really just my preference. You can play whatever hand traps you feel are the best or what you think will put the most work in, but for now these are the hand traps that I've chosen to go with. I have triple Infinite Impermanence, triple Ash Blossom, and 2 Uneffect Lancia. Infinite Impermanence just because it's an effect availer that you can set from your hand, so it's good going first and going second. Then Ash Blossom, just good against your opponent, just stops your opponent from adding cards from the deck to the hand, sending cards from the deck to the hand, or special summoning from the deck. And then Lancia, just in case it's ever needed against a deck that likes to banish its cards. And that is it for the monsters. Now I'm going to go into the spells. For the spells, I have triple Mayakashi Return and 2 Zombie World. Zombie World, just pretty basic, turns everything on the field and in the graveyard into zombie. It's also really good against decks that rely on their typing. So for example, maybe Tribe Brigade, Dinosaurs, Dragon Link, Flounderies in particular, because then they can't summon anything. Basically they can't summon any of their monsters because Flounderies focus on tribute summoning, and with Zombie World they can't tribute summon any of their monsters. And then triple Mayakashi Return, this card's amazing. It's basically a Rota and Foolish Burial in one. You can take one Mayakashi card, not just a monster, but you can also search out the new trap card as well, and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Sorry if you can hear some squeaking in the background, I don't know where that's coming from, so sorry about that. But Mayakashi Return, just an amazing searcher and a great card in the Mayakashi archetype. And then for one-offs, I have 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Pot of a Virus, and 1 Buff. Foolish Burial, just because it helps speed up the deck. You can send cards like Mizuki, Gozuki, Banshee, Glow Bloom, Beledrock, you can assume literally whatever you need in the graveyard to the graveyard. And then Pot of a Virus, this is here for recovery. You burn through your extra deck really quickly, so just having this on hand to return. You play 2 of nearly every Synchro monster apart from the last one, so just having this to return 4 of them and maybe one of your Link monsters or a monster to the main deck and then draw 2 cards just helps so much. And then 1 for 1 because you can Masoon and Hygiene at level 1s, and this helps speed up the deck a lot, and also helps get whatever monster you need in from your hand into the graveyard. Sorry about that little stutter there. And that's the only spells I'm playing. We really don't rely on our spells. The only spell we really rely on is Zombie World, because that card helps against really a lot of the meta decks. Well, not all of them, but a fair few of them, like Dinosaurs, and specifically Flounderies in particular, but also against Telements as well. Because a lot of their, well not a lot, all of their fusion monsters require Aqua monsters, and with Zombie World on the field, they won't be treated as Aqua monsters, so they can't go into their fusions, which helps a lot. Again, helps you play against them really well, as well as the new trap card as well. Sorry about that. And it also helps surprisingly well against Branded as well, if they're playing like a Branded engine. I don't know how common that is. I've only played against Branded Telements once, I believe. but it worked surprisingly well against branded. To an extent, I was playing vampires against a branded Tilament player, and because of Zombie World they couldn't go into any of their Tilament fusions, so then they attempted to contact fuse their Fallen of Albaz and my Crystal Wing. If you know how to play vampires, then you'll know, well, there are some vampire combos that I posted on my channel a while back, so I'll leave a link to that video in case you're interested in learning how to play vampires. But you can set up Crystal Wing relatively easily in the deck, and they tried to go into the Albaz fusion monster that requires Fallen of Albaz and a drag monster, and they couldn't even do that because of Zombie World. Crystal Wing wasn't a dragon, it was a zombie. So you can lock them out of half of their fusion monsters with Zombie World. So Zombie World, just an amazing card to have in really any deck if you can afford it. But in Mayakashi it works amazingly well because there are just so many ways of sending Banshee to the graveyard and then getting quick access to your Zombie World. Anyway, sorry if I rambled on a little bit there, but I just wanted to talk about Zombie World because I love zombie decks a lot. And then for traps, I have triple Ghost Meets Girl, a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui Saga, and triple Rivalry of Warlords. Rivalry of Warlords, just pretty basic. Each player can only control one type of monster. This doesn't hurt us at all because the entire main deck and extra deck is zombies, so you're not too concerned about that. But with Zombie World, basically your opponent can't summon anything that isn't a zombie because they are locked into zombie monsters. And Rivalry of Warlords is good even without Zombie World, because as I said, the whole deck is zombie. But if the opponent is playing a deck with more than one monster type, then this card helps out a lot. And then 3 of the new Mayakashi card. This card is absolutely amazing. It's good against pretty much everything. I'd say everything against Flandries, because Flandries don't special summon at all, but the Zombie World helps out. Zombie World is good, is enough against that deck. Sorry if I keep stuttering. But Zombie World is good against Flandries and can get the job done by itself relatively easily. But Mayakashi, the new Mayakashi trap card says you contribute any Mayakashi or Shiranui Synchro or Link monster. And then for the rest of his turn, neither player can special summon monsters from the hand, deck or extra deck. So already that card, an effect like that is just amazing to have on any card because it shuts down so many decks. And this really is the new win condition of the deck. Well, actually, this is the first win condition that Mayakashi has been given, because before you couldn't really play Mayakashi all that well, but with the new support, with the new trap card and the new Link 3, they fixed 2 problems that the deck had. One was its ability to Link climb, and the other was allowing it to set up a really good defense, and also having a way of solidifying itself as a strategy. And the just two new cards made that possible, and this is why I feel like Mayakashi has a very strong anti-meta feel. The deck has access to 4 really good floodgates. You have Zombie World, which is good against any deck that relies on its typing, specifically, as I said, Flandries, and also Tillaments to an extent. Rivalry of Warlords to help against decks that would play multiple different types. And the new Mayakashi trap card, which just stops the opponent special summoning monsters whatsoever, and also the Mayakashi Link 4, which negates the activated effects of the opponent's banished monsters. So you've got 4 really good floodgates. The consistency of this deck is amazing, the recovery is great, its defenses are great, and you have so many options to work with, but all of them get you to pretty much the exact same end board, a Link 4 with maybe the trap card if you can get to it. and with the amount of zombie support cards that we have, just make this deck even more fun to play, and it makes it that little more competitive. And also the new trap card has a really good effect where you can banish it from the graveyard, target one of your banished zombie monsters and return it to the graveyard. So you can return maybe your Dim King Better Dog if that got banished, your Mizuki, so you can use Mizuki's effect twice in the same turn, maybe Hydraun, Darky, Yukimasun, literally any zombie monster that is banished can be returned to the graveyard using this card. And it's also searchable with Mayakashi Return as well, which makes it even better. And that is it for the main deck. Now I'm going to go onto the extra deck. For the extra deck, and starting with the Synchro Monsters, and I'm sorry if I butcher any of these names, 2 Oboro Garuma, the Wheeled Mayakashi, 2 Tatsugoro, the Poisonous Mayakashi, 2 Tengu, the Winged Mayakashi, 2 Yoko, the Graceful Mayakashi, and 1 Gashadokoro, the Skeletal Mayakashi. On summon, these don't do anything, they're pretty much just vanilla monsters, but when they are special summoned from the graveyard, they all have different effects. The level 3, I'm not gonna bother saying their names again, it's too much effort. The level 3 on summon from the graveyard will prevent all your monsters from being destroyed by battle this turn. The level 5 will mill both players' decks for 3 cards, which in certain situations can be helpful, but against tournaments I wouldn't recommend it. Tengu will destroy a spell or trap card on the field. Yoko will destroy a monster on the field. Yoko and Tengu are the ones you're going to summon the most because they give the most, have the most use, just being able to destroy either a spell or trap card or a monster, depending on what the situation is and what deck you're going up against. And then the level 11 will become unaffected by card effects, which in some situations can be really useful. Just having a monster with 3300 attack that is unaffected by the opponent's card effects can be really useful in certain situations. And they all have ways of special summoning themselves from the graveyard. The level 11 will special summon itself from the graveyard when a link monster you control is destroyed. By banishing another zombie from the graveyard, you can then special summon it from the graveyard, and then it will become unaffected by the opponent's card effects. And they all have an effect like that. When a monster with levels above them is destroyed, they can banish another zombie monster from the graveyard and then special summon themselves, and then they get their effects off. So Yoko, when a level 11 is destroyed, you can banish a zombie from the graveyard and then special summon it. And it basically goes like that for every monster that is 2 levels above them is destroyed, you can banish a zombie from the graveyard and then special summon them. So they all have ways of special summoning themselves, but typically you will special summon them using the new Link 3 monster, which has a quick effect. Well, it's basically a quick effect Mizuki for your Synchro Monsters. So that is really good. But anyway, that is it for the Synchro Monsters. For the Link Monsters, I am playing 1 Vampire Sucker. Vampire Sucker I have in here again as a safety net in case I can't get to any of my Mayakashi monsters, because some of the Mayakashi links, well, the Link 2 can only be special summoned using Mayakashi monsters. Vampire Sucker just requires 2 zombie monsters, and since the whole deck is zombie monsters, you can just summon this however you need. And then the only effect we're really concerned with when it comes to Vampire Sucker is when a zombie monster is special summoned from the graveyard, you get to draw a card. And that's really the only effect I use on this card. But it's here in case you ever need it, and there are situations where it does come up. And then for the Mayakashi Link Monsters, I have 2 Yuki Onna, the Ice Mayakashi, 2 Yuki Onna, the Icicle Mayakashi, and 1 Yuki Onna, the Absolute Zero Mayakashi. The Link 2 is, we don't it doesn't stay on the field that long. It's literally here as a bridge between your synchro monsters, Darky, and then you can go into your Link 3, summon Darky from the graveyard, and then special summon Link 4, and then bring Darky back again in case you need it for something else. But the Link 2's effect says while this card points to a zombie synchro monster, it cannot be targeted for attacks. And then when a zombie synchro monster you control is destroyed, you can target one monster on the field, its attack and defense become halved. That really, I'll be honest, that never comes up. I don't use that effect whatsoever because, as I said, it's literally just a bridge between your synchro monsters and the rest of your Link monsters. So you can use Darky to go into your Link 3 and then eventually Link 4. So if you ever need it, it's there, but I personally have never used it, so it's up to you how you use the Link 2. And I'm referring to them by the Link ratings because they all have the exact same name, and I'm just saving time by saying Link 2, Link 3, Link 4 because they're all called Yuki-Onna. So I'm just saying Link 2, Link 3, Link 4 just for simplicity. And then for the Link 3, this is an amazing card, by the way. It's basically, on summon, you can target one monster on the field and its effects are negated, so going second, it's good. But the main effect we're focused on is you can banish it from the graveyard, and this is a quick effect, by the way. Target one of your banished zombie synchro monsters or one zombie synchro monster that is in your graveyard, and then special summon it. And as I said, typically you will go for Tengu or Yoko, so you can destroy a spell or trap card on the field, a monster on the field, and then you can trigger Yuki-Onna's effect. So the Link 4's effect. Sorry, you can use the Link 4's effect when a monster is special summoned from the graveyard, or when a monster effect is activated in the graveyard. You can target one other monster on the field. Its attack and defense becomes 0, and it has its effects negated permanently. And that is a twice per turn effect, which is absolutely amazing. And it has a really nice floodgate effect where it negates the activated effects of your opponent's banished monsters. So before, summoning the Link 4 was really difficult because it was just a Link 2 and then a Link 4. So if you wanted to go into the Link 4, you would have to use Hyjun and have another extender, which before you didn't. It wasn't impossible, but it was just a bit more difficult. But now with the Link 3, it just becomes so much easier to go into your Link 4, which is an amazing card. And just having a twice per turn effect isn't something that a lot of people will be expecting. And also under the new trap card, because your opponent can't special summon monsters from the hand, deck or extra deck, if they try to special summon a monster from the graveyard, you can then just use the Link 4's effect to negate its effects, and its trap becomes 0 permanently. And you can use that twice per turn, and also if they attempt to banish anything and they have an effect that activates when it's banished, they can't do that with the Link 4 on the field. So you might want to consider maybe DD Crow instead of Lancia. I keep going back and forth between those two, but as I said, play whatever hand traps you feel are necessary. But DD Crow might help this card just a little bit more, because then if the opponent has a monster effect in the graveyard, you can then use DD Crow, banish that monster, and then because it's banished, the Link 4 will negate its effects. So food for thought, really. But overall, I'm really happy with the new support that Mayakashi's got in a magnificent Mavens? I think it was Mavens. But yeah, the deck just feels so much better, and it really does feel like it has a ton of anti-meta potential because of all the floodgates it has, the consistency that it has, and the recovery that it has. But anyway, that is it for the deck profile. I will be doing a test hand video, and I will be going over some text that you can play in this deck to give you a better idea of how to play this deck. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know what you thought of the deck and what you would improve. And as always, I'll talk to you all in the next video. Take care.